Alright, so it's the next night and I have come out here and kind of just went back over some welds. I did a couple more passes on that spot right there. I did come up and kind of do some tack stacking, so I was just basically just tacking stacks in places in between like my stitch welds on there. I may actually come in and put some seam sealer just because I don't want debris and stuff. I don't want like mud and sand to get stuck in between some of the like if I got like a weld that maybe has like a pinhole in it, I don't want water to get in there and sit and rust. So I may just put some seam sealer all the way around. It's going to be ugly, but it's going to be strong. That's kind of how I like my rust repair. I like it like a gorilla.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the king of the jungle.
So I've got the inside all welded up. So it's still kind of warm. So that's kind of where I want it right now. Let it cool back down. And in the meantime, let me show you what we're going to do. So right up here where I cut to get that broken bolt out, I made these to go in place. And all this is just a piece of some kind of suspension bracket. Apparently I painted it with flat and gloss on one side. Whoops. But all this is a suspension bracket that I cut and then welded a nut all the way around. And so what I'm going to do is just plop that right in here. And then there is my new body bushing support. And so now I'm going to tap this down with a hammer, clean it up really good, and weld it back up. Now that I've got all the holes sealed up, and I'm gonna hit it with some paint, but I think that looks pretty good, and plus it's gonna be covered up so you're not gonna be able to see this at all. Well, sweet. So besides putting the shackle on, this side is done, except for, you know, I've got to come back in and do a couple of more spot welds where I believe I have some gaps. I don't want that. And then I just hit it with some seam sealer and paint. As you can see here, I hit it with some paint, and then I came back in with a little bit of the seam sealer just to fill up any pinholes or anything like that that I could have in my welds. I've got to paint it one more time just because I want to paint over the seam sealer, and then we can go ahead and pop these bushings back in, or we can go ahead and put those bushings in. So I've got some fresh paint on there. As you can see, it's looking pretty good. I just used some Seymour Big Rig frame paint. I love that stuff because it dries really, really quick and it lays so good. That looks awesome. And check this out. Look what my dad gave me. He gave me like this $200 tripod. Or he told me it was 200 bucks. It was his old one. So now I can retire my ladder and my shop rags tripod. I've got like all this money tied up in cameras and all this bull crap, and I was still using a ladder. I just couldn't commit to buying one of these. But I'm pretty stoked about this, so thanks, Dad. So like I said earlier in the video, this kit did come with some bushings, and it did come with a sleeve. Just gonna make sure that everything in here is greased up. So you see how it's got those grooves or those channels right there? That is for grease to sit. So I'm just gonna make sure that this is just all greased up right here. So what I'm gonna do first is grease the outside of it, because I can grease the inside once it's in the Jeep here. And grease that up. And I'm just doing a thin layer right there. You just don't wanna put it in dry.
That's what she said.
So now I have both of these all greased up. All right, so you can see the hole right here. Got my greased bushing. Just gonna push that in. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the back side. So now I'm just going to take the metal sleeve, go ahead and grease that up. I'm just going to put some grease in these slots in here. You know what? I'm just going to do this. All right, so this is probably way too much grease. It's all good. So now I'm just going to go ahead and get this started. I got to take a mallet to hit it in the rest of the way there. I like to grease the outsides of these also, just a little bit with a thin layer. Well, look at that. Look how sick that is.
Dude, what does mine say? Sweet! What about mine?
All right, so I'm gonna come in here and see if I can get this shackle on. I'm also going to be greasing this bolt because that's going to be riding in that sleeve. Sweet. So as you can see right here, I've got everything painted up. I don't have these torqued down. I'm not going to torque these down until I get the Jeep back down on its own weight. But as far as the driver's side goes, other than putting the plastic cover back right here and putting the body bushing bolt in, we're done. So what I'm probably going to do is do some time lapses of me doing the passenger side. And then I've got a few more things that I'm going to be bolting on this Jeep. And then it'll be good to go. There it is, folks. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, once this cools down because it's pretty hot, I'm going to come in and clean up some of the edges just like I did on the driver's side and go ahead and get the other one tacked on. Now that I have the passenger side at the same level as the driver's side, I can go ahead and start getting this gas tank back in. I got my buddy Chris Morris coming to help me get the gas tank back in. So I'm going to be putting new gas lines on it, just from the tank to the fuel filter right up there behind the frame rail there. The old fuel lines were kind of cracking up and they were in pretty rough shape, so I'm just going to go ahead and put some new hose on there. So if you remember the last video I did on this, you remember I took the filler neck hoses off and they were absolutely dry rotted, as you can see right there. So I ended up going on the River website and got some new ones for like 30 bucks. I don't think that was that bad, but got some already pre-bent hoses we're going to be putting on right here, and it came with new hose clamps, which is awesome. So now I'm going to be getting these garbage ones out of the way. So this thing is going to have all new rubber hoses and all new filler hoses around the gas tank. So that's going to be awesome. Check this out. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but look where the rubber had started coming through the hose clamp. Isn't that awesome? So I have all the rust removed on the frame rails. I have the suspension bolted back on. I have the gas tank all plumbed back in, and now it is tightened up. Honestly, the last thing is to get the tires back on it, prime the fuel system, make sure it cranks up, and I've got the hoses ran correctly. And then we'll be ready to put the armor on the sides. So this Jeep is coming right along, so we're almost there. So to be honest with you, you could probably call this a job well done, but I believe we're going to take it a step further. So we're going to be installing some rocker guards to go over this section of the tub right there where I repaired the rust at the bottom. Just because, like I said, I'm not a body guy. I can get rid of the rust, but I can't make that tub look absolutely flawless like, you know, this piece of straight metal right there. I did the absolute best that I could to my ability without putting way too much Bondo up there. Me personally, and I talked to the owner of the Jeep and he agreed with me also, I would rather have metal on there than Bondo. I low-key hate Bondo. So what we're gonna do is just cover up any imperfections with some rockers. So I'm gonna show you how to install those right now. All right, so it is another night in the shop and it's kind of actually humid out here. So that's why the shop floor is sweating so bad, because it's like 70 degrees outside and my concrete floor is still like 50 degrees. So let me show you what came in. So this is some rocker armor that the owner bought. So as you can see here, they're pretty heavy duty. Got a decent powder coating on them. And these things right here, they were proudly made in America. Okay, so they were proudly made in China. This Jeep really isn't a hardcore rock crawler. It's just more or less of a, you know, weekend trail rig. And it's gonna be perfect for this application. And it even came with protectors for the corners. See, it's got little protectors, and you can actually practice your karate. So if you haven't seen the previous videos, I fixed a rust hole that was right here. I have the before and after right there, but so I couldn't quite get the body lines where I wanted. You might can see some waves in there, but I talked with the owner and he wanted to redo the steps anyway, and I was like, well, why don't you put some steps that are on the side? And he was down for it. So that's what we're gonna do. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take off these kind of cheesy little fender flares right here. All right. All right, so right here, you've kind of got one of these Christmas tree plastic pieces. So I'm just gonna pull that out. All right, so that's gonna go in the trash. So I'm gonna be taking this metal bracket off right here. Here's a closer look at that metal bracket that I'm gonna be taking off, just because it doesn't look that great. Got that piece of metal off right there. And now I'm just gonna put the Christmas tree plug back right here just to make it look nice, I guess. But I've got to get this old dirt and kind of mold stuff off. So I'm just going to take a degreaser wipe and just kind of go over everything right here. I don't want to trap any mud behind the rocker armor just because I don't want it to start rusting. So I'm just going to get all this cleaned up really good. I actually have to loosen up this body bolt in order to get the rocker protector on right. I don't know if you saw in the last video where I actually broke both sides, and 93% positive that this one's gonna break also, but I did spray it down. I've been soaking it down like every couple of days with PB Blaster, just kind of marinating it and everything, and it'll loosen right up just fine. I don't need it to come all the way out. I just need it to loosen up just like this much, like 3/16 of an inch much. All right, definitely making sure that I'm on loosen. So I'm just gonna go really slow. I can hear the rusty threads going through it, so that's good. That means it has lubrication. That means the PB Blaster worked. Look at that. Ha-ha! So I gave myself plenty of room. That way I can put this up here and kind of test fit it right now. So as you can see here, I kind of did have to get creative. I had to jack up on the body of the Jeep, and then I had to pry up also with this side because these two bolts on the outside, I did loosen them up just a little bit, and I believe those are holding me back from being able to pick the body up as much as I need to. So I loosened those up, and then I still had to put the crowbar on these, and then I got my little helping hands right there. These things are screaming for dear life right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark every hole where I'm going to be drilling. So I'm just going to mark it, mark it, mark it. So honestly, what is super cool about the YJs is that whenever you put these rocker guards on, you can just drill straight through the tub and not have to put in nut zerts. So on like the TJs and the LJs and stuff like that, along the body up here, it actually goes, there's actually like a little subframe tub that you can't actually get to. So you have to put the nut zerts in them. And personally, I like it this way just because you can just put a wrench on it and it's super simple. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a center punch and just center punch the center of these and drill them out. So now that I have all of these drilled out, I think instead of taking it back off, I'm just going to do it the easy way and just hit it with some Seymour Paints, Big Rig. This stuff is awesome for stuff like this because it dries super quick and it lays down really good. So I'm just going to be very careful to try to only paint what I have drilled out, just because I don't want to leave any exposed raw materials because it'll rust. And what is the whole point of this video series is to get this Jeep rust free. Let it sit probably 5 minutes and it'll be dry to the touch after that, and then we'll put some bolts in it. So I'm going to be using the hardware that came with the kit. I'm just going to put the bolt through and get the washer on and then the bolt on the back, and I mean, it's pretty much simple as that. That looks so much better than what it did when it first came in here. When it had the old man steps right there and then the rust hole. And the best part is that it looks really good and it's covering up where I fixed that rust hole. But overall, I'm pretty stoked about how these came out. The little YJ is coming along. Sweet. And then on the passenger side, you can see I've got the rust repair all done. You can look up in there. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you watching me do the rust repair and the rocker armor on this 93 YJ. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I try to respond to every single comment that y'all post. But I'm pretty pumped about this little YJ being done. I would not hate to see this back in my shop, maybe for a suspension lift or something like that in the future. But anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all watching, and we'll see y'all on the next one.